Hey, friends, and welcome to the Genius Way Show. I'm your host, Ben Hummel. And to start off today, I'm going to say a little quote by Henry Ford. And it goes like this: whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And so I want to just kind of move into our topic today, using that as a starting off point. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. As a way to kind of show us how to approach whatever we're trying to do in our life, whether we're trying to build something, whether we're trying to do some personal development work, whether we're working on our personality traits or working on a psychological problem, whatever it is, any kind of creative enterprise we're getting into, what's important is setting ourselves up in the right way to actually get the job done. And that little quote of whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right, just like really points us in the right direction. So the title of this episode is The Surprising Power of an Intention. So let's start by saying, what is an intention? What is that thing that kind of puts our feet on the trail of whatever we're trying to do? So an intention is something that you have decided is something that you're wanting to do, to express, to get there, to travel. An intention is a decision. This is what I've decided to do. And so the amazing power of an intention is kind of threefold. Number one, setting an intention and working and acting and kind of moving through an intention allows you to focus on what it is you're trying to get to. And every day we're spending our time, we're spending our efforts. Every day we're like moving towards something, but most of us don't really know the intention of it. We're kind of setting ourselves up. Let's say you have a job, you go to work. The job is the kind of the framework, and you kind of show up. And unless you're like really conscious, and unless you're really, really loving your job, the intention is just gone. So an example is, I'm doing this TV show. My intention here is to impart what I feel is really, really valuable information for people to grow in their lives in whatever way they choose. I'm here to provide content and tips and tools and definitely encouragement for those who are on their personal life journeys consciously. That's my intention, is to pass that along because I think it's valuable and I think it's important and I get energy from it. And I see the people that I work with get energy and inspiration and results from what I share. So that's my intention for this. So for you, what is it that you're intending to do with your life every day? What is it that your projects have as an intention? What have you decided to focus on? And so when you know what the intention is, you're going to be able to be laser focused on whatever it is that that intention is pointing towards. So it's like having a compass. If you have a needle in this compass that's always pointing north, whatever direction you're looking, you can turn the dial and you can find out where you're going, right? So having intention is having that north pointing needle where instead of the magnetic pole, your goal or what you're trying to do is magnetic north. It's where your needle is always pointing. And the compass is like wherever I'm facing at this point, I know which way to go and how to get to my intended goal. So that's one aspect of like setting an intention. The other aspect of setting an intention is that you become clear with yourself on what you're wanting. And that's a really kind of an insidious kind of thing because, when we choose something to do or choose something to express, unless we really know for ourselves what we're actually wanting, when we're actually clear, we kind of will just go all over the place, So setting an intention forces us to become clear with ourselves about what it is that we're doing. just like I explained to you before about what I'm doing here. I'm not here trying to sell washing machines. I'm not here to get you to join a religion. I'm here because I have within me something that I feel is valuable to share with the world. And so when I do that, other people, in my experience, get inspired to do that for themselves in their own lives. And so basically, something like having this show, having this intention to do this show every week, allows me to show up and be clear with myself as to what I'm doing, what I'm wanting to express, what feels valuable for me to express or create or to kind of move in whatever direction. And so that's the second aspect of the powerful aspects of setting an intention. So we've got, being clear with ourselves. We've got the ability to focus. And then it's about, you know, how do you actually point yourself in a direction that you're wanting to go? How do you actually get there? Like, where is the next step? So the intention, when it's done correctly, gives you the next step that you need to take. And that's what keeps the intention is what keeps us from just wandering all over the place. It actually tells us the next step. That's what it does. It focuses, it forces you to be clear with yourself, and it shows you the next step that you need to take to get that thing done, that creation, that expression, that particular piece of work or play. It shows you the exact next step for that to happen. So these three things together are kind of different facets of setting an intention or working with intention, living with intention. There's that there, and through all three of them, there is a focus. There's the ability to focus. There's the ability to kind of point yourself. And here's the best part: when you have your intention set out, and you know what it is, and you're clear and you're focused, that intention becomes the thing that you always come back to. You remind yourself of your intention, and then no matter how lost you get, you always know how to come back to it. Okay, so I hope that's clear. The intention is really important no matter what you're doing, because it's the focal point that when you wander off, and you will, because we always do, when you wander off your goal, wander off the path, this intention clearly said, clearly focused on, clearly like pointing to the next step, that's where we come back to over and over and over again when we kind of drift off, get lost, or our intention or our energy kind of flags. The intention is there set up like a beacon, like the North Star, or like, the north pointing arrow on the compass. That is what our intention, that's the part or the role that our intention plays. So without an intention to do anything that we're doing, even if it's an intention to just be open. Like I had a day yesterday, it was Sunday, and my Sunday was completely free. I didn't have any bookings, had no clients that day, I had nothing to do. And so I deliberately gave myself the intention of seeing what happened. I went with whatever I wanted to do. Whatever I felt like doing at any given moment is what I did. And that just took a huge burden off of my usually really busy and hectic week. And so your intention could even be that. Today, I'm doing nothing. I'm going to sit and watch TV. I'm going to sit and look at my navel out in the backyard, or who knows what it is, whatever you want it to be. So the intention, again, that's where you return to over and over and over again as you may get lost. Okay? So it takes a little while to get to that intention, and we're going to talk about that later on in the show. But I wanted to show you a little clip here. This is a clip from a movie called Meetings with Remarkable Men, and it's about the life of George Gurdjieff, who was a very profound teacher of his time, and his work is still out there and people still following it and so forth. This is about the early years of his life. And this one clip is very poignant because it talks directly about, it gives an example of somebody's kind of focus and intention when it comes to getting where they want to go. And in this scene, we're talking about Gurdjieff really knowing that he needed instruction. He learned that he needed guidance and people to help him on his spiritual path. So let's take a look, and we'll come back and continue with the amazing power of intention. Yeah, that guy was not messing around. He was focused, he was thirsty, he was determined, he was desperate. His life had that urgency to it that's so important to actually create something or go on your spiritual journey or your life journey or whatever it was. So yeah, I always loved that clip, and it's part and parcel with the intention here. So one of the other things to do when you are, setting intentions, when you are moving with intention or living with intention, you might want to think about doing something like this, where you create your own personal mission statement. So we all know that a company, in order to do what they need to do in the world and be in their business, and you might have a business yourself, you should have at some time done a business or a mission statement where it kind of tells the world and yourself what is it that you're doing there with the business. So a personal mission statement is important too before you even get to a business, and most of us never do it. But I'm going to show you a way to kind of really do this. And if you have if you have something to write with, or you have a recording, you can look back at this. I'm going to give you 3 steps for a personal mission statement. So the first step for a personal mission statement, and this is all in service of becoming really clear about what you are doing in your life. So if I came up to you and say, hey, what are you doing with your life? If you couldn't just come out and tell me, most likely you haven't done this part. And there's no reason why you can't. And you're going to get a lot of mileage out of it if you do. Okay? It might change over the years, but right now, you can do this personal mission statement, and it's going to help you immensely, whatever you're doing. So the first thing you want to think about, there's 3 steps. The first thing you want to think about is, here's the question. What is the most valuable thing that I can do with my life? Number 1, what is the most valuable thing? What do you feel is the most valuable thing that you can do with the time you have on this planet, with your life? So that's number 1. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even have to be this lofty thing. You don't have to save humanity. It depends. What is it for you? Doesn't matter. So that's number 1. What is the most valuable thing I can do with my life and my time? Number 2 is, why is this thing valuable to me? That's the second question. Why is this thing that I think is valuable in my life, or to spend my life doing? Why is it valuable? What are the reasons that this thing in particular is valuable to me? Okay, that's number 2. Number 3 is, how do I see myself expressing that value in the world? How do I do it? Okay, and so this part might get a little sticky because a lot of people don't know how to do those things. But I guarantee, if you have the first 2 questions answered, you're going to know at least part of the third one. How do I express this in the world? So these 3 questions, when answered, become your personal mission statement. And from there, anything you do, you're going to be able to focus your intention behind this mission statement. or rather, this mission statement will be behind your intention, because you're solid within yourself. It's like, this is who I am as a human being. This is what I want to do with my life. I've thought about it. I've wrestled with it, and I've come to this. And then that clarity is behind your intention, and your intention is pointing towards your goal. So it's very, very powerful. But it's the fact of getting clear and also coming back to it again. The mission statement, it's another thing that you come back to over and over and over again. When you make a decision in your life, let's say you have a decision to make, and you look at your mission statement and says, well, the most valuable thing that I can do with my life is to help others in some way. And so is the thing that I'm deciding along the lines of that? Does this help or hurt people? And then you get to use your mission statement to help you decide how to navigate your life. When you know and you're using your mission statement to help you make those decisions, intention is very, very clear. To be able to set an intention from that place, very, 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 very clear. Not a problem at all. But if you don't have that, you can see where you can get into the high weeds and never know what to do. Okay? So you got to kind of define yourself a little bit here with that. You have to have a definition. The other thing that helps when setting an intention is the language that we use. Just like that quote in the beginning, whatever you think you can do, if you think you can do it, you're right. If you don't think you can do it, you're right. The cool thing about setting your, learning your personal mission statement is to be very clear. And when we use language, we have to be clear as well. So in your mission statement, you could say something like this, and it wouldn't be very effective. You could say, well, I hope to be able to help people in my life one day. Okay, that sounds cool, but it's not very strong. It's not very definitive. So another way to say it is, I help people. I help people with my own life experience. Much different. Instead of saying, I don't want to do something, you will say, I will do this, or I won't do that. Use definitive language in however you're saying it, because it forces you to take a stand. Instead of I can't, let's say somebody says, hey, do you want to come, I don't know, you want to come and hang out and go on a hike in the mountains this weekend? And you say, oh, I can't because I'm doing this thing. The better way to say it is like, no, I won't be doing that because I'm busy doing my life mission statement, my personal mission statement. You see, doesn't mean you have to be rude. It means you be definitive. I won't be doing that. Or I will be doing this instead. It's not, I can't. It's like, no, I'll be doing this instead. So whenever you're doing your intention or your personal mission statement, look for the language that you're using. Look for how you're saying it. And if you're giving anything else the power over what your intention is. Like, in other words, I can't, I hope to be able to. Why? Why do you hope? Why can't you? There's nothing on the outside stopping us. We decide what we intend to do. So when you're setting that intention, again, watch the language, be definitive, be deliberate with how you say this stuff, even to yourself. And so when you're writing your personal mission statement, check it out in that way. All right, so we're going to take a short break for a commercial. And on the other side, we'll come back to setting intentions and the power of intentions. So we're talking a lot about intention, and we're talking a lot about pointed direction, making choices. I want you to know I'm not really a kind of a pushy kind of guy with existence. I'm not one to push myself onto existence and in some way, force the universe to manifest something for me. It's not about that, But if we see it clearly, what is our role in existence as we live this life? So we're not here to just kind of be a blob and just kind of wait around and see what's happening and see what comes to us and what doesn't. What we're here for is to be part of existence. And what that means is we have the power to create something in our lives as a co-creator. We have that energy, and again, as a psychotherapist, I see this day in and day out, how myself, all of us, create a world in which we have to then live. And we can either create something beautiful or something really scary and powerful. No matter what happens in our lives, we get to create out of that whatever we want, you know? And so we are the authors of what we experience. We're not the authors of weird things that come into our lives necessarily, but what we do when those weird things come in, we are in charge of. And so, like I said, I'm not a pushy person when it comes to manifesting things, but I am aware that it's important to take our part when it comes to living this life, whatever life you've been given, and making it the best that it can be for yourself and for the others in your life. And so that part is a creative process that we join in with existence to do. And so I want to read you a little story here about just this very thing and how to possibly position yourself in this life to see that even though I'm not forcing my will onto creation, it's my job to participate with creation and contribute to make this world a better place for myself and the others in my life. So here we go. This is a cute little story. There was once a man who sought direction from God about how to live his life. One day, he decided to journey into the desert. He said to his friends, "In the desert, God has a message waiting for me." And so it took the man a number of days to go deep into the desert, and he had to bring food and he had to bring water with him. And when he traveled a long, long way, he saw the strangest thing. It was under a shrub that was a little bit ahead of him, and it was a fox. But there was something very different about this fox. Most foxes have 4 legs, and this fox had none. And everything else about this fox was like many other foxes. Sharp fox teeth, bright fox eyes, bushy fox tail, and probably a very clever fox mind. The man knew a few things about medicine and science, and he could see that the fox had been without legs for a long, long time, maybe since it was a little fox kid. But he wondered how this fox could have lived for so long without any legs. Foxes are hunters, he said. How could this animal hunt, especially out in this wasteland? So the man decided that he would hide in the bushes and observe how this fox survived. He crouched down into the bushes and waited. Now all of a sudden, the man's heart jumped. Coming into view was a tiger. Now surely this was the end of the little fox with no legs. He couldn't even protect himself. But no, there in the tiger's mouth was a slab of meat. The tiger laid down to eat his share and then left the remains for the fox to eat. And as quickly as it had come, the tiger left. It was the most amazing thing. The man could hardly believe what he saw. The tiger had fed the little fox. He watched the fox eat the piece of meat that the tiger brought him. The man decided he would wait and see if this amazing thing happened a second time. And sure enough, it happened again. And as before, the tiger came to feed the fox. The man observed this happen for 7 days straight. Then the man said to himself, "Wow, this is my sign from God. This is what I was looking for." Now he decided right there that he needed to have more faith and that God would provide for him. And so he found his own spot in the shade. He got rid of the rest of his food and water, and he waited. He waited for God to feed him in the same miraculous way as God had fed the little fox with no legs. He waited and he waited and he waited for days on end. And finally, when it seemed clear that no tiger was coming to feed him, and when he realized that if he didn't find food and water, he would die, the man got up from under the shrub and he left the desert. When he finally returned home to his friends, he told them the story and about how, unlike the fox, God had failed to provide for him. And one of his friends, hearing the story, said to him, "It seems that you took the wrong example here, friend. You still have your legs. God was telling you to use them and be as the lion instead of the fox. You should use what you have and provide for others instead of waiting to be provided for." That's your message. And so you can see from that story that we're not supposed to be kind of innocent bystanders here. If you have something to offer, it's important to offer it. It's important to use what you have to kind of further your intention. This guy's intention was to be provided for, and he didn't realize that the way for him to be provided for was to use his abilities. And so that comes to my favorite topic, which is genius, which is your collection of life skills, the collection of your talents, gifts, and callings, stuff that you were born with, latent talents, and what I call deep skills, the skills that you have as a person, as an individual, that you may not have even used yet or that you can't lose. And so part of setting intentions and having a powerful way to focus on whatever you're doing is to use those deep skills that are contained in your genius. And another way that we need to access our genius and give it the best shot to kind of come out and be expressed. And any description of intentions would be incomplete without first discussing the RAS, the reticular activating system. And most people, if you haven't heard about this already, most people are like, what the heck is that? The reticular activating system. And so I'm going to put a diagram up here for you now. And this is your brain. The reticular activating system is kind of a bundle of neurons in your brainstem whose basic function it is to filter the information that comes into your conscious awareness. And it happens all day long, all night long. It's always happening. Like right now, you are getting a certain amount of sensations, awarenesses, stimulation that's coming into your awareness. Okay, and let's say through your brain at this point. But let's say if we could break it down into bits, like on a computer, and there was 1 million bits of information coming in, we're only able to handle, let's say, 50,000 bits of information per second instead of 1 million in our conscious awareness. So the rest of all that information is deemed unimportant by the reticular activating system. It filters out the unimportant so you can see what the important stuff is. So what is the important stuff? Well, a lot of that's reserved for survival. A lot of it's reserved for what we're unconsciously saying to ourselves is important. But the RAS can also be used in setting an intention and focusing on what we're doing. We can also be used by consciously telling it what we want to see in our lives. Consciously telling it what is important. And the example that everybody gives about how the RAS works in that way is the example of, let's say you're wanting to buy a car and you're wanting to buy a red F150 Ford. So let's see, and you're looking for a 2020. All of a sudden, as soon as you tell you RAS that. You say, hey, I'm looking for this. You're going to start seeing them everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's one, there's another one, there's one. And like, oh no, that's a 2018. It's not 2020. You're going to see them everywhere. And so basically the lesson here is whatever you tell your RAS, your reticular activating system, to look for, it's going to find it because it's already there somewhere in your field in that unimportant category of things. But since it's in that category, we don't see it. That same thing goes for the right partner, job opportunities, business opportunities, opportunities for personal growth, all of those things. When you consciously tell your RAS, look for those things, it's going to suddenly start seeing them because you've told it it's important. It goes into that important category. So if you're hearing this story, you probably have experienced this already. But when you're working with intention, when you're working with focusing and being clear about what you're wanting to do and what you're wanting to accomplish, what you're wanting to achieve, where you're wanting to go, it's important to use that built-in function of our physiology as well. You know, that gives it all that much more clarity. It's kind of like a magic thing that really works. And so give yourself the best chance by letting the RAS operate as well. And so, yeah, that's a very important aspect of what makes up an intention. There's a science and an art to living our lives with intention. The science aspect is about using our clear intention in all things as a map or GPS system to focus in on where we're going and what we're doing. Having a clear intention makes any enterprise way more effective, whether it's a professional or a personal one, because we have deliberately directed our energy to the task. So the art of intention is in seeing when to act and when to rest as we're moving towards our goal. This makes sure that we're not forcing our will onto existence, but rather participating as a co-creator with it. Co-creating with intention is the key to a successful effort in any aspect of our lives. So practice this science and art of intention as you move forward on your personal development journey. And that's our show. I want to thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed being here with you this week. I hope you gleaned something really valuable for your personal life journey from what we discussed today. And I look forward to seeing you next week. I always invite my guests to sign up for a free membership on my website, thegeniusway.com. And this way I'll be sending you tools and tips and encouragement on your personal life journey. And until then, I invite you to stay curious, be kind to yourself, and remember that your genius has something to say.
Thanks for watching The Genius Way Show with Ben Hummel. Make sure to visit thegeniusway.com for the resources you need to help you on your personal life journey. You can contact Ben at ben@thegeniusway.com. And you can follow The Genius Way with Ben Hummel on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for streaming The Genius Way Show with Ben Hummel.